Hosanna! Blessed is the one that comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest heaven. Palm Sunday is a celebration. It's a celebration of the triumphal entry of Jesus into Jerusalem, for the long-awaited and yearned-for Messiah to come into his own, to wipe away all the injustice and dethrone those who would be unjust, who are not the rightful rulers of Israel. It's to get rid of the emperor and the Romans who are occupying it. It's also to do justice to those who are desperate and who are suffering. When Jesus enters Jerusalem, they put these lovely things at his feet, palm fronds. And these days we wave these remembering that Jesus is a king, and to us they're a symbol of power. But really they're a pretty common item. People lay these at his feet as he rides along with their own cloaks, not on a white horse with all the panoply of heaven behind him. That's Revelation. He's on a borrowed donkey. What kind of king is this? In most coronations, there would be purple and velvet lining the road. There would be people throwing flowers, and the person would be riding in triumphantly on the back of a chariot. This is the image of Jesus, the ruler of all, Jesus Pandokrator. He's wearing purple. And he's seated as a Roman emperor, ready to mete out justice and the law. This is the image that most people expected of the Messiah. One that would come with power and glory. And on the other side here is Jesus represented as a king too. Mocked, betrayed, left alone, scourged and crucified and executed shamefully as a traitor to the empire. It says, Jesus, King of the Jews, above his name. Which do we believe is more powerful? It is in this transition from this state of powerlessness to all power that we see God working in this world. Not so much in the circles of power as we expect them and we've seen them over and over and over again. Not in the status quo, but in a change and in a transition. God changes the world in this one act. Now you may ask me, why do I bring this up on Palm Sunday? Aren't we supposed to be celebrating the Lord's coming into the world? Well, yes, we are. And at the same time, Palm Sunday is a transition of sorts. It's a transition from our celebration and Jesus is walking and teaching outside of Jerusalem and coming to the end of the story. Jesus enters Jerusalem, all this time knowing that what is coming is not going to be pretty. The disciples try to dissuade him along the way, and yet he says, I must go through this. I must see this through. So when Jesus rides into Jerusalem, you may think of the triumph and the rejoicing and the shouts of Hosanna, which are shouts of relief of the very people that need and desire a just ruler, the one of God that is coming into their midst, that they have long yearned for. During this week, during the week of Jesus being in Jerusalem, those same people join the crowds. And some of those people even shout, "Crucify him." Palm Sunday is not without its converse. Passion Sunday is also the name that we give this day. Passion is a Greek word meaning to suffer. And the fact is that Jesus doesn't just suffer for us. He suffers with us. Throughout this week, the same people that were there and saw him and were relieved at his coming and the righteousness of God being shown are left wondering, what now? What is going to happen to us? Afraid, alone, sequestered, wondering what on earth had happened to this symbol of power, this man that was going to bring down empires and change the status quo for the good of all. Palm Sunday is a transition, not just from rejoicing, but it's into Holy Week. And it's a reminder that you do not go to Jerusalem as Jesus. You do not go to Jerusalem to see him in glory, but you see him there scourged and mocked and suffering. It's a reminder that in transition there is pain. As things are becoming as God desires them, there is a fight with sin. There is a fight with the pain and the suffering that we see in our average lives. In the time of crisis, in this time of illness and sequestering, we don't feel much like celebrating sometimes. We laugh, which is good. But I think that most of us are wondering what is going to happen to us. But by the end of this week, we'll remember that one suffered for us and suffered with us. And we will remember, too, that our triumph is not short-lived. But it is that we make do. We make makeshift roads of our own. We use the tools we have in order to celebrate what we have now. The crisis has brought about many different kinds of suffering to the public eye. Things that we had taken for granted that now we realize just how deadly they are. And what Jesus' scourging, Jesus' entry in Jerusalem reminds us of is that we too, and Jesus too, had small celebrations in this transition, but it was through much pain that the status quo, that what was the usual, what was the normal ruler, was changed forever. As you are alone, you might be wondering, how can I connect in this way and remind myself of Jesus' suffering for us? How can I join in the passion? Well, since not many of us are going to the Way of Tears this year, the Via Dolorosa in Jerusalem, you can read Matthew chapters 26 and 27, the Passion of Christ, the Passion of Jesus. And if we suffer with him, maybe we will suffer too just a little bit. We will see our own sufferings brought to light there. Because as Jesus goes to the cross, as we prepare for that, we prepare to see the suffering of God in light of our own suffering. That the heart of God hurts for us. That the heart of God was so desperate and yearned so much for a change for our world, to free us and to bring us relief, that he would go to a cross in his Son. The Passion of Christ and Palm Sunday go hand in hand, just as Easter and the cross too go hand in hand. We cannot come to Easter without going through the cross. We cannot come to the rulership of Jesus and the love of God made abundantly clear and for all, and the destruction of sin once and for all, without going through the Passion. So this week, celebrate those little things with your makeshift palms and those things that you welcome into your life and you are relieved of in your life, and give thanks. But also, take the time to meditate on the fact that suffering occurs, and suffering is a part of the life as we know it now. Because one day, Jesus will come, and all of this will be undone. Amen. Hosanna. Blessed is the one that comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest.
Sweet